Hey kid, do you like Pikmin 2? Yeah? Well, prepare for that to be permanently changed after you notice this horrific detail. Let's zoom in on Olimar's icon here. It looks normal enough. Now let's take a quick look at Louie's icon and is that an Olimar-shaped hole in the icon? Well, it's harder to see on lower resolution TVs, which is why you would usually be playing the GameCube and Wii releases on. If you enhance the quality, it becomes much more noticeable and pretty hard to unsee. Still not convinced that Pikmin 2 is a bad game? Well, take a look at this. It's the cutscene that plays after you repay the debt, a nice cinematic, but not so nice after you notice the unremoved white background between the president's tuft of hair. What?! Seems like some goofball over at Nintendo forgot how to use the magic eraser in Photoshop. While these are problematic, they were both fixed in the Switch release, but it's too little too late. The game has already gone Pikmin 2 the bin and won't ever be coming out of there. Horrifyingly, these aren't the only hiccups featured in the Pikmin series, as both the games and even things outside of the games that have several mistakes present in them. I decided it would be interesting to look through some of these because I wanted to. Giggles and shits aside, most of these are pretty minor and don't ruin the Pikmin series. This video is mostly covering practical mistakes and not things like glitches and programming oversights, which I already have a video on and might make a sequel to at some point. Anyways, before we delve into these, be sure to subscribe for high quality Pikmin videos weekly. If you beat Pikmin 1 and collect all 30 ship parts, you will receive the best ending, and after the ending cinematic and the credits roll, you get to watch the enemy reel. This is a cutscene showcasing every alive creature in the game. There was no Piccolopedia yet, so this was the only in-game way of receiving every single enemy's name and facts about them. Now usually you just watch the cutscene like a normal person and enjoy seeing the enemies and the pleasant song, but if you stop to look at these clips, things are fishy. The most apparent example of this is with the Gulix. I just beat my first playthrough of Pikmin 1 and whoa, what's this weird blob thing? I never saw this and I want to fight it, said someone probably. The gameplay footage is clearly in the Forest Navel. Let's reload our save file and go there, but whoops, no Gulix. Oh well, there's this newly unlocked challenge mode where I can play in the Forest Navel. He's probably there. Nope. In fact, he is not in the Forest Navel at all. He spawns in the impact site and story mode on odd numbered days, and that's the only place he spawns in. The enemy reel just lied to you. The reel is full of either misleading or flat out incorrect enemy placements. The Mamuda is shown in the distant spring, but is only there during challenge mode and yet again is only found in the impact site. The Honeywisp also is not in the distant spring at all, and neither is Bill Cosby. There's quite a few location hiccups, but those aren't the only weird things here. Here's all of the enemies with the letter S in their name, but where's the swooping snitch bug? He's all the way back here next to the letters F and G for some reason, breaking the alphabetical order of the reel. His name probably used to start with a verb beginning with F, but the devs didn't like the sound of the fathoming snitch bug and changed it and never readjusted his placement in the reel. I can't fathom why. Then there's weird things with the actual gameplay featured in the clips. Every time there's a place a bridge would be, there's these strange stone platforms replacing them which don't show up in the game at all. There's also this strange object shown during the Yellow Wollyhops clip, and that also doesn't show up in the game. In the Breadbug clip, a one pellet is getting carried by 3 Pikmin, which is not possible, and the Smoky Prog has green eyes instead of red. The Wii ports in Europe introduce several languages, but if you don't speak English, tough shit, this isn't translated at all for some reason. ¿Qué? Vivo en Irlanda. Enseñamos mejor el español que nuestra propia lengua. For the sake of time and not boring you by going, "That's not there!" for 20 years, I won't go through all of the mistakes, but if you're interested, the Pikmin wiki lists them all, links in the description. The entire enemy reel was re-recorded for the Switch version, so none of those mistakes are present there, and it was also translated for all of the languages. Hey Pikmin, why the long face? Oh, I see why, he is missing his mouth. This promotional image for Hey Pikmin, which was used on both the box and 3DS icon, have a blue Pikmin completely missing his mouth. There are several renders of Pikmin which have mistakes, some small and some can be a bit more noticeable. Purple Pikmin's leaf and bud icons are forgetting their small hairs in Pikmin 2. Can this game get any worse? Yet again, this was fixed for Switch. Also, while not really a mistake, all of the white Pikmin's icons are directly recycled from the yellow Pikmin's icons. While most mistakes with Pikmin inside the games are usually really small, like I bet nobody noticed that Purple Pikmin didn't have hairs until I told you, outside of the games can be a different story. Some Pikmin are butchered so badly they end up looking like bootlegs despite coming from official media. Here's a magazine advertising the new Play Control port of Pikmin 1, and for some reason a yellow Pikmin is modeled completely red. It looks pretty unique. Next to him there's also a blue Pikmin who is missing his mouth. Then we also have probably one of the worst Pikmin related images ever. Here's the usual suspects. Try and spot what is wrong with the image.
What the fuck?
They used Pikmin 1 renders, realized that there would be a style mismatch because the Pikmin 2 types would not be styled like that, and instead of getting the Pikmin 2 renders for the other types, they instead decided to Frankenstein together the purple and white Pikmin in Photoshop and hope nobody would bat an eye. They didn't even bother to run over his mouth with purple for like 5 seconds. There was barely any effort put into these at all, yet there's still more effort than necessary. Alright, let's go all the way back to the primordial time of 2013. It's Reggie, and he's here to make an announcement. Guys, come on down to GameStop and you can get Pikmin 3, and if you pre-order it while you are there, you get to play the game at home a day early. This was the Pikmin Tree hands-on event, which was hosted at several American GameStop and EB Games stores. You go down to GameStop on either the 20th or 21st of July, play some Pikmin Tree, pre-order it, and receive a code that will let you play the game a day early. Seems simple, and you're probably wondering why this isn't a mistake video. Well, it turns out that this event wasn't planned out all too well. You see, people could also pre-order Pikmin Tree outside of the event and get a code which didn't let you install it a day early. And I think you can see where this is heading. People who attended the event would often get the complete wrong code, so when they went to play Pikmin Tree a day early, they couldn't and had to wait, which would obviously be frustrating. To make things worse, some people who pre-ordered the game normally outside of the event would get a code intended for the event, which let them install the game a day early. Now that might not seem bad, in fact you'd think you'd be lucky if you got that code, but there is a big issue. These event codes expired after August 3rd, one day before the US release of Pikmin Tree on August 4th. If you used your code, which you presumed was a normal one that would work when the game was actually released on August 4th, it would tell you that it was invalid and expired. GameStop's refund policy was that if a product was older than 15 days, you could not get a refund. So if you pre-ordered Pikmin Tree before July 21st and received a faulty code, you'd just be told to walk on and buy another copy. Basically, if GameStop messed up your order, you had to pay extra for it. This event, which was supposed to excite people for the release of Pikmin Tree, ended up just pissing people off, which isn't good advertising. Nintendo tried to distance themselves from it by deleting the video mentioning it off of their channel, and it has mostly been forgotten about. Good advertising idea, but pretty bad execution. Let's take a quick look at Pikmin Bloom, where there used to be a bit of an oversight with the naming system. Pikmin Bloom lets you name your Pikmin to whatever you want, but you're usually only supposed to be able to change the contents of the name, and not stuff like the color of the text. Well, in older versions of the game, if you input Unity-rich text tags in your name, which is similar to HTML, you would be able to add some pizzazz to your Pikmin's name. Putting this around your Pikmin's name would cause it to turn purple in some screens, and the code won't be visible. You can basically do this for every single color. You could also use this to make the text bold, put it in italics, or increase the size of the text. This is a pretty fun mistake, and I kinda wish Niantic ignored it instead of patching it out. Though in their defense, it could cause issues, like if you used emojis in the name, there's a high chance of it crashing. Speaking of text, we also have the series-wide mistakes of occasional typos. These are probably some of the most common mistakes in basically any form of media, as if something has a lot of text, it can be easy for one mishap to slip through. Pikmin does have a few typos in it. I'll only be covering some of the interesting and funny ones because listing every single time a tired developer at Nintendo misspelled a word in a treasure article 5 people read would be pretty boring. Louis has a line of dialogue in Pikmin Tree where he incorrectly refers to himself as Louise. Goes along nicely with this clip as well.
And he's also with a companion, I believe it's his wife.
What?! The most interesting typos are the region-specific ones. The European GameCube version of Pikmin 2 is absolutely riddled with typos for the European exclusive treasures, and a lot of these had to be patched out for the new Play Control port. It is by far the most typo-filled version of Pikmin 2. Most of these were just using the wrong version of its or misspelling things like Hockatate. In the North American new Play Control port of Pikmin 2 with the language set to French, these are getting specific, the game will tell you that you have to use the plus button to lie down with the knapsack in Almar's journal. This is incorrect, you actually have to use C, all plus does is pause the game. Thankfully this mistake wasn't present in Europe, or else everyone in France would have an excuse to go on strike again. Though if you pause the game in any French version of New Play Control Pikmin 2, the game will accidentally call the sphere chart the same name as the stellar orb. Oh shit. Then there's also the misleading and incorrect text. Olimar calls the beady longlegs a Pikmin devouring spider on his notes for the key. One look at the beady longlegs immediately tells you why that's not correct. Pikmin 4 brings back the creeping chrysanthemum from Pikmin 2, but they're basically two separate enemies as they have radically different designs and behaviors. Despite that, the Piclopedia article is almost copied directly from Pikmin 2, which features the statement, "It relies on preying upon other creatures to provide sustenance, so it has no need of leaves for photosynthesis." This only applies to the Pikmin 2 version, as the one in Pikmin 4 does in fact have leaves. They did change a line in the article that states that Pikmin are fooled by its disguise in Pikmin 4, while in Pikmin 2 they weren't, so I'm not sure they didn't correct the leaf thing. I've also learned a lot about the creeping chrysanthemum from this. There's also this jigsaw puzzle piece in Pikmin 4 where Schnauz talks about seeing a face. Do I see a face in this picture fragment? Is that part of a smile I see? No, it couldn't be. Well, it definitely couldn't be because this piece of the jigsaw contains only a background. Considering there are several pieces to the puzzle, it's easy to see how this mistake could be made. Louis states that he gets strong chocolate vibes from this specific piece. The Switch port of Pikmin 2 has a mistake where instruments to some cave songs don't play. This is because their volume has accidentally been set to mute. In the original version, the volumes of these instruments are lowered in game but not muted. This mistake ruins some songs such as the Mystic Marsh. Finally, in all versions of Pikmin 2, you can get a power-up called the Stellar Orb, which is supposed to brighten up certain sublevels. However, an exception to this is sublevel 10 of the Cavern of Chaos, where the floor will actually become darker after you get the power-up. The reason this happens is because this specific sublevel uses an outdated lighting configuration, which doesn't support the Stellar Orb. The game will resort to using default lighting values for the Stellar Orb, which aren't specific to that sublevel, which lead to it mistakenly becoming brighter. Pikmin 2 is truly an absolute catastrophe in game design. That's most mistakes featured in the Pikmin series. I know a lot of these were extremely small, but they were pretty fun to look at. Let me know in the comments section what mistakes are going to make you throw away all copies of Pikmin that you own and switch to Patapon. Also, be sure to subscribe for high quality Pikmin videos weekly, and if you don't do that, then you are a mistake.